Hello, everyone. It's Demi Utley. I'm back today to talk to you about the actual words that you are using in your proposal. So, I know a lot of times the hardest part about writing your proposal is actually choosing the words on the page. And today I am sharing a few of the most, I would say, overused words out there that you should not include in your proposal. So, let's go ahead and get started. Up first, we have impactful. So every business should ideally be making some sort of impact on the customer or the goals or whatever you're hoping to achieve. And while this is a very powerful word on its own, it's so overused nowadays that it doesn't quite have the impact that it should. So if possible, try to swap this with something else that's not on this list to just make it a little bit more powerful in your writing. Up next, we have paradigm and new paradigm. So, the definition of paradigm is a typical example or a pattern of doing something, a model. So, in many cases in your proposal, I would recommend using simpler language, and this is the perfect case. So, instead of saying paradigm, you might just say something like model, and it will simplify your proposal, and then you're not using this business jargon that's overused by everyone else in the space. Another term to avoid in your proposal is bandwidth, with the exception of if you're working with something like network bandwidth or something like that, where it's actually like the term in the industry. But this comes up a lot as far as like, we don't have the bandwidth to do this, or we have the bandwidth to take on new work. So avoid using this word in your proposal unless you absolutely can't think of anything else. This is one that I see that is also commonly overused. Next up, we have, I grouped together four that are kind of similar, and they're just really overused in a lot of proposals. I myself have used them many times. So they are innovate, disrupt, pivot, and curate. And while all of these are great words, I love all of these words, they found their way into the marketing material in almost every business. So I would be willing to bet that you probably use one of these words or one of their synonyms in a lot of your materials. And because they're out there so frequently, especially in the tech space with like disrupt and innovate, they don't quite have the impact that they should. And it is a lot easier to just kind of skip over these words when you're reading it. So ideally, swap them out for something that's less common so that way the reader better engages with your content. The next word on the list is literally. So, this also is a word that comes up in conversations a lot where people will poke fun at you if you say literally too much. And it's the same in your proposal. And of course, everything in your proposal should probably be literal. So, just avoid using this word at all and try to take it out if you see it in your proposal. Up next, we have optimize. So this is similar to the innovate disrupt situation where this really suffers from overuse. We're optimizing everything nowadays. So if you find that you have optimize in your proposal, see if you can substitute it for something that's not on this list of overused words. I know that optimize is one that I love. So I go through a lot and just try to see where I have it and then substitute it with something else. Up next, we have mandate. So, mandate is a pretty serious legal term. It's very official. So, unless you're an attorney or someone working in the legal space, I would recommend not using mandate. You can just swap it with a little bit less of an intense word for whenever you are mandating something in your proposal. The next word to avoid is actually one of my favorites that I have to try to stop using, and that is compelling. So I love this word, but it's definitely overused all the time. So if possible, you can substitute it with something like captivating, irresistible, convincing, powerful, any other word that's just not as popular and used in every single marketing material out there, including my own. So definitely try to reduce the use of compelling if possible. Then we have momentum. So, momentum is a physics term that has gained popularity in a lot of business writing because it's a wonderful metaphor, but it's earned its place on the overused list. So, unless you work in physics, I would recommend that you search for a less popular word to use in place of momentum. Then we have dynamic. So I've seen dynamic used from everything from price list to customer engagement to your sales process. Everything seems to be described as dynamic these days. So if you find that you're using this word to describe something in your process or in your solution, then I encourage you to try to find a different word to describe it because odds are one of your competitors is probably using the same word. Up next, we have synergize and its cousin synergy. So this is something that's joked about in a lot of pop culture whenever we talk about synergy, and for good reason. This is a very popular business jargon term that finds itself sandwiched between a lot of the other terms on this list, creating just a lot of content that has very unclear meanings because it's just so much jargon. So, where possible, try to not use synergy or synergize and substitute it for something else that's not at the core of business jargon. Then we have another very popular term, which is fast paced. So I know almost every job description out there has the term fast paced in it. And in the proposal world, I see this a lot whenever we're talking about the company overview or the company history or anything like that. So almost every business nowadays describes itself as fast paced. And when you're writing an overview of your company, to avoid sounding like your competition, try to think of another way that you can describe your company culture that's not fast paced, because odds are your competition is also fast paced and they're also saying that in their proposals. Up next, we have the phrase point in time. So while this might make sense in a specific technical document, a lot of times you can just substitute the word moment and it doesn't really change the meaning of your text that much. And it also simplifies it and makes it a lot clearer. So you can just swap this with moment and then you avoid using the overused phrase and also simplify your content. Then we have a few phrases that I would say are a little bit too casual and conversational. While that's good in a lot of writing, sometimes it can actually overcomplicate your content. So let's just take a look at a few examples. So first we have on the same page. So instead of saying that in your proposal, you can just say agreement. So we reach an agreement or something like that. Then we have under the radar, which can just be substituted with unnoticed. So something's unnoticed. Then we have think outside of the box, which you could say idea generation or something similar. At the end of the day, which you could just say ultimately, or you might be able to just eliminate it completely, depending on what you're saying. Then the last thing is it's not rocket science. So this one you could just say simple or cut it out altogether, depending on the phrase and what you're saying. So that's it. That's all that I had for today. I just wanted to share a few of these overused words and phrases with you to make sure you're not including them in your proposal. And if you have anything that you think should be on this list that you see all the time or that you personally use all the time, feel free to put those in the comment. I would also love to hear if, like me, you have a word that you find you use over and over again. Mine is always compelling. And then I also say ensure, which isn't on this list. But feel free to include those in the comments. In the meantime, I will continue to create new videos to share some more proposal tips with you. Make sure you subscribe so you get the latest updates, and I'll see you next time.